You want to get into boating, but think you can't justify that expense in 2024? Well, I'll show you how to do so. I bought this very boat 2 weeks ago for $300 and including the trailer, $300. And I'll show you what I look for when I'm buying a cheap boat. This is not my first project. I've renovated. This is going to be my 8th boat, so I'll show you what I look for. First thing I look for is I want the entire engine and outdrive assembly to be complete. I don't want any missing parts. I don't want a missing lower unit, stern drive, engine. I want all that to be there. The other thing I look for is I want a solid transom. One of the things I've learned is don't buy a project that you don't have experience doing. So, for example, I'm not going to try to rebuild a hull from fiberglass, and I'm not about to start trying to rebuild a hull from fiberglass. The other thing along the boat I look for, the very next thing I do is I go underneath and I look and I just try to make sure that there are no holes, there's no major cracks or anything like that underneath the transom. There's going to be chips, there's going to be, sometimes some fiberglass, a little bit of that showing from the boat running aground when it's, when it's being beached, when you're taking it out. But that's fine. But I don't want any holes down there. I don't want to have to replace fiberglass in the transom or fiberglass underneath. The other thing I want to see is a solid deck. Even though this deck does look awful, the deck is solid. So if I climb up on here, you'll see I can step on it. There's no soft spots. If you find a boat you like that has soft spots, you could still buy it. If you have experience, for example, rebuilding a deck or something like that, it would be the same process. But I generally like to find a boat with a solid floor. In the case of this here, the carpet is just really nasty, so I'll be changing that out, but that's not going to affect the driving or floating of the boat. The other thing I like to see when I'm buying a boat is just that all the seats are there and all the cushions are there. Yeah, they're in horrible shape, but what we'll be doing is going through and redoing all the upholstery on here, repainting the interior. If you have the existing pieces, it's already easier to make the boat look nice and renovate it versus trying to create the cushions and things like that. Another thing, if you're buying an old project boat that's been sitting for a while, chances are the tires are going to be awful. What happened to us on the way home driving this is that the tire blew, and instead of having to leave the trailer and the boat 300 miles from home, what we did is my wife was following in her car. I've actually bought this on a vacation. And what we did is we just took the donut, the spare from the trunk of her car, jacked it up, swapped it out, and we got home with that. So if you're buying an old project boat with really bad tires, if you're taking it any distance, prepare yourself to take it to a tire shop and get both tires replaced. If you don't have that in your budget, grab a couple donuts to take with you. That way you have some spares to get you home with. And of course, make sure you have, at least a title for the boat. Make sure you have a title for the boat. And always in the very back on the transom of the boat, you'll have your VIN number for the boat. You can match that up to what is on the paper itself. And those are pretty much things I look for when I'm buying a boat. A couple other things is I just go around and just make sure that the boat is solid. There's nothing flopping in the fiberglass. While this boat does look pretty old, everything is solid. There's no rotten fiberglass anywhere. So that's how I knew this boat was a buy. We have the whole engine here behind the doghouse, and even though, you know, like for example, I didn't see it run, the price was right. You know, when you're buying a $300 boat, yeah, you have some wiggle room to fix things yourself. So just make sure that everything is there, because sometimes people hack up wires and, you know, and they lose components, and